Doesn't it feel good just to be who we are? Just to be our beautiful selves. We forget. I had a friend call me. I talk to him once in a while by phone. He lives in another part of the country. And he said, I got to call and tell you this story because you can share it on Sunday. It's so fabulous. And he said, I was going to bed the other night, and there were people in my shed in the backyard stealing stuff. So he said, I wasn't about to go out there because no telling this day and age what they might be, carrying something. And so he phoned the police. And he was told, gosh, I'm sorry, there's no one in the area to help you right now. And he said, we'll send somebody as soon as we can. He was really disappointed because there's his stuff being hauled off into the van, and he had quite a bit in his shed, tools and gardening stuff. So he hung up the phone and thought for a minute and thought about some of the conversations we'd had. And he said the first thing to do is be calm. So he took a deep breath and he was calm, and a great idea popped into his head. Picked the phone up, called the police back, and he said, you don't have to hurry over now, I shot them. I'm the guy that said people were stealing out of his shed. Within 5 minutes, he had half a dozen police cars, plus helicopters, plus an armed response unit. They caught the burglars red-handed, and he got all his stuff back. And he said, God is really good when you don't panic. And so I said, what did they say when they realized the burglars weren't dead? And he said, well, the detective came up and he said, I thought you said you shot them. And he said, I thought you said there was no one available. So the idea is this month, spiritual guidance and personal responsibility. And I've been working, I get these, impressions, ideas, when I kind of complain inside myself. Of course, being the minister, I got to do it secretly, right? And so I'm complaining to myself about something, and the first sentence I got was, you're the beloved, God is well pleased. So I thought, what does that mean? So it took me a while to figure that out, and the honor of being the beloved, which we all are. But I forget and do my nitpicky irritation stuff, normal stuff. And then I kind of mastered that one, and I lived my life and practiced living it like I was the beloved. And that meant I paid attention and I listened. And I did my commune, my meditations were different. And then I felt like I'd pretty well mastered that one. And then I noticed that I procrastinated on some things, not church business stuff, but personal life. And one of them was mowing my little lawn. Now it takes me 10 minutes to mow the lawn, once I haul the mower out. And of course I'm here in church talking about it. And I said, I just can't get myself to mow that lawn. And so I got this phrase in my meditation, all my learning experiences are pleasant. Well, I had to think about that because sometimes pleasant things like mowing the lawn aren't pleasant. And thinking about that, I realized it was an answer to procrastination. When I would procrastinate, it would get more difficult. So I started to watch how I was living my life. And I found out that when I procrastinate, it gets to be a problem before I move to solve it. Only the pain of the results get me moving. So I decided to change that. If I'm the beloved and I'm living this wonderful life, I better live it like I'm supposed to. Mm-hmm. I mean, they slapped this label of minister on me, so I'm supposed to do something right. So what happens is all my learning experiences are pleasant. I kept saying it over and over again and thinking about it and playing around with it. And I realized, excuse me, it is the answer to procrastination. Because when I procrastinate, it becomes a problem. not a learning experience. And I thought, I've lived all these years, been in this teaching that I can't even remember how long, raised my children in it, and here I am having learning experiences. And now I declare they're pleasant. And guess what happened? When I would catch one and say, oh, this is a learning experience, I better pay attention, they were pleasant. And so I started to teach myself what I was told to do. So now I'm the beloved, and I get to have pleasant learning experiences. So now I get another one. So I mastered that one comfortably, so I could live with that. Now I just recently got another one, and it said, you are not the voice, you are not the thought, and you are not the vision, the visual. And I thought about that, and it's what goes on in our head. And see, that's personal responsibility. That's the spiritual guidance that we're looking for. And so if I look at that and say the responsibility is mine, so I started to look into this concept of mind and what it is. And Daniel Siegel, he said, does mind exist? And he does a 2-day workshop on that. And he's on a mission to tell people that you can work to make changes in your life very easily. And you need to recognize and reorganize he calls it the neural pathways in your brain. Well, that's really interesting to me. So I thought, I got to look into this. I became aware that there's times in my mind, and I'm assuming in other people's mind, when we just get into overwhelm with our to-do list. I've got the to-do today, I got the to-do later, and the sheet gets filled up. Now my learning experiences are pleasant, I'm the beloved, I pay more attention to the list before it turns into a problem. So here's the concept. You get your favorite, and I'm calling it your favorite because you'll call it forth when your mind gets bored. And it's your favorite worry. It's your favorite concern. You're kind of wondering. I used to call these playful ponderings, but they don't help you. Playful ponderings are different. It's like creating an affirmation. Now, we're taught that what you focus on is what you get, right? So if we hold the thing that we're worried about right here and know that it's going to get resolved, we keep the worry. Now, we've been practicing a while, and we start to learn and say, oh, I need to focus on the opposite, because I'm not getting anywhere focusing on my worry, denying it or ignoring it. So then I start to maintain a visual or a thought or a feeling. And I look at every detail. What is it you want to have happen? What is your desire? First thing I taught myself is the word want never happens. Your subconscious hears the word want and says, oh, we don't need to do anything because want is tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. So this person wants, they don't really want it. So I was talking to Bliss when we were hugging. We talked about relationship, cuddle type relationship. And so she and I work well together. She's been at this center a long time. And she said, I'm ready to have a wonderful experience with a man in my life. And I went, ooh, nice. So we kind of chatted about it. Now she knows, because of our past work, that whatever she tells me goes into my prayer work and something happens. A couple of weeks later, she's back and said, she's jumping up and down like a little puppet. And she's saying, I met him. And we're this. And it's fabulous. Ellen overheard it and she said, I might want one of those, but I'm not sure. And I said, now JoAnn wants one.
I want one!
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I do those easily. I do them very easily. So make sure you want it. All right, so let's go back. Okay, ladies, calm down. Here's the secret to the whole thing I'm going to say today, so pay attention. You are the listener. You are the observer. You are not what your head is doing. So when you hear the voice, now Bliss is an artist, so she'll see it in art. She'll see forms, but some of us hear a voice. You know, that voice has been with us so long that we don't even question it. It is so familiar, it's an authority figure. And because it's an authority figure, we just recognize it and we use it for what it is. We just obey it. And we don't become the listener, we do what it says. Now, when I work with youngsters here in San Francisco that are having difficulties with addictive behavior, that's one of the first things I teach them. You are the observer, you're the listener to what is going on in your everyday life. Now think for a minute of your favorite worry, your most familiar worry, and bring it forward, because you know what it is. See, you're all smiling, nodding your head. I know that one. I'm familiar with that one. And you recognize it. Now don't think about it. Let your mind go blank and just listen. It's hard, isn't it? It keeps popping up. It wants your attention. So you can say, not now. My one daughter called me this morning. She's saying, real quick, Mother's Day before I came over. And she said, what are you going to talk about? And I told her, and she said, tell them, just let it be. Which is our song. Just ignore it. But see, she was raised in this, so it's easy for her, because she wasn't taught any different. Trash would come up, and I'd say, oh, that's nothing, let it be. Here's the thing. When that random voice, thought, vision, whatever it is, how you see it, I hear a voice myself. When it comes up, you listen to it. Now you get to be the observer and the listener, and you do I want this one? Do I want to keep this as my own? That's the next question. And you can say, I'm passing it on. When in the very beginning, eons ago, when I was a youngster, I'd say, I'll give it to somebody else. I didn't realize you could just change the energy of it and turn it back into pure spirit. So I just passed it on to give it to somebody. It's really embarrassing now. But anyway, here we go. So you've got your favorite. So now you know your favorite worry, concern, or the most familiar one comes up, and you look at it and say, do I want to keep it? I'm going to observe it. I hear it. I see it. I feel it. Because remember, the memories are stored in the body. And so at an instant, that memory will pop up and you'll be right in the middle of what the dastardly thing is that you really don't want to think about. And then it's, what do I do to get out of this strong emotion and this feeling? You have to replace it. We have classes for this. The next class I'm teaching takes care of it. But here's the concept. I'm going to tell you a little story. So just take a deep breath and relax. You don't have to work when you're here. Just play. There's a magician had a pet cat. Well, he's in his little cottage, and he notices a little tiny mouse scooting across the floor. And he looks at the mouse, and he looks at the cat, and he went, this is not good. Now, he loved all life. So he takes his magic wand, flicks it, and the little mouse turns into a cat. Well, there was one problem. He had a dog. The cat was afraid of his dog. So he went, this isn't working. And I got a problem in my little animal family here. So he turns the cat into a dog. Now the two dogs are fighting. He said, this mouse is giving me trouble. So he turns the mouse into a panther. And the panther goes outside because it's big enough now and it's strong enough to take care of itself. The family's back to normal. Problem solved. The panther comes back, hovering on the door, scared to death because the hunter's out there and is going to shoot him. And here's what he said, I give up. he turned the panther back into a mouse and he said, "Nothing I do for you is going to help you. Nothing that thought of worry and concern is going to do for you. Nothing I do for you," he says to the little panther, "because inside you have the heart of a mouse." Now, when that thought comes up, and it's a panther or a dog or a cat or whatever you choose to call it, little tiny mouse, it just keeps coming back, it keeps coming back, and it keeps coming back. Don't let yourself get bored. Most dangerous thing, let's get into worry, concern, irritation. I knew people, when their mind goes blank, they start to get irritated. Mm-hmm. They'll say, "We have a clock ticking in here. I hear a car. Is that an ambulance?" And they go into irritation because they can't just listen. And are we okay with that? Of course, we don't judge. Everybody, we had to start somewhere. I remember those days. And so we say, okay, just take a deep breath. Just take a little nap while the rest of us do meditation. The memory is buried in every cell in our body. Dr. Holmes came up with this intuitively in 1959. Science came up with it after he made his transition. Here's the idea. Siegel said, the brain can change states very fast. You notice how I had you take into the negative, your familiar situation, described it a little bit, didn't like it. I jumped you back into laughter and happiness. The mind can go just like that. It's used to that. However, your body can't keep up with change so fast. And it's where the score is kept. So the memory is stored in the cells in your body. You will feel the emotion you felt at the time the incident happened. You'll feel the anguish of fear. And it's real. And you'll feel. This reminds me, I worked with a woman that had a lump in her breast, and she's from Germany. And she came to me. She was referred by one of our people. And she came to me, and I talked to her about that. And I said, "What do you want to have happen?" And she said, "I need my eggs harvested. I need a dozen, and the doctors have tried several times, and I can't even get one decent egg. And I want to have children later after the chemotherapy." And I said, "What about the lump?" "Oh, they're going to cut that out. That's okay. Don't deal with the cancer, Reverend. Just deal with the eggs." She doesn't know our teaching. She doesn't know what we do. So I said, "Okay, but could I just do the cancer just in case it gets better? Can I just put them together?" "Well, if you want to, but I want the eggs." So I made an appointment for her to come back, and a couple weeks she had to go, and did what we do. And she came back and she said, "I had 13 eggs harvested, and 12 of them were perfect." He couldn't believe it. We tried so many times. And the worst thing is, the cancer is shrinking, and he doesn't know why. And I said, "Do you want to let it shrink?" And she said, would put her hand on her chest and went, "I'm tearing it out. I need to know he's dug it out." So she had to go through the operation anyway, because it had to be dug out of her body. We're okay with that. Now she's running around. She came back. She said, "I want him to get married." So she's living her life. Help me change a job. I said, "Oh, my work is never done." When it works, it works. Here's Dr. Holmes. He tells us this: it is not the brain that does the thinking. Remember that. It is not the brain that does the thinking, for when a person dies, the brain does not go on thinking. So you are more than you know. You are a spiritual expression of God itself. You were given the gift of breath at birth. You want to connect to God? Breathe. Oh, it's still there. I breathe as often as my body loves that when I breathe. What else? What other gift? Tell me another gift I was given. The gift of choice. You get to choose how you're going to use the energy that you are supplied with every day. You're going to choose what those thoughts are going across. Now, it's like you're a robot when you're a little child and in elementary school, high school maybe, and possibly college. You don't really learn to think for yourself until you experience life a little. And what happens is that this stuff gets dumped into you. And you're taught by your family, those that love you. Oh, this is the smart one. This is the troublemaker. This is the lazy one. I always said, this is the one that has her head in a book all the time. You feed her, she's happy, just hand her a book and she's fine. And so we have these labels that are stuck in the back that become our belief system that stops us from being the best we can be. I had a young man come to me, and he kept trying to get his college degree, and he couldn't, and he said, he used to be a musician at one of the centers I was at in Templeton, and he said, I just can't seem to get through college, and I don't know what's holding me back. So, oh, that's interesting. So I said, have a seat, let's talk about this. And we did, and something happened at age 2. I found out he was adopted. And age 2, his adopted mother got pregnant. And he said, 2 years old, I guess I'm no longer wanted. They had their own baby. That decision affected all his results as a grown man. We make decisions. What does a 2-year-old know? They adored that little boy. So what happens is we had to change a belief. That's all it was. We went in there and said, hey, this, had a little conversation, got the whole thing cleaned up. He came back the next semester and said, I just whipped right through that, been through it so many times and never finished. It was so easy. I just dashed right through it and got my degree. How interesting that a belief when you're 2 can stop you from being the best you can be. And we don't even know it, because that voice just keeps going in our head and we assume it's true. That's the sad part. So now you can have the perfect love relationship with my blessing. It's allowed. When the German woman came back, she called up and she said, I need a checkup. I have people come in every so often for checkups, particularly if they were in a life-threatening situation. And I said, okay, come on in. And I don't charge for that. I just want to make sure they're okay. And I said, and she told me about the relationship, but I said, let me do my test. And I asked the questions in the 4 parts of a healthy relationship, and I have them give me a number. And I got to the physical relationship, which she probably had problems with in the past, and she said, oh, that's 110. I said, honey, you can only go to 25. People are so adorable. Anyway, long story short, I said, I give my blessing. And then she said, would you marry us? He's from England, she's from Germany, and they want to get married in Cuba.
Of course.
Anyway, that's another story altogether. Here's the thing. Thoughts, voice, feelings. Be aware you are the observer. You are the observer, you are the listener. So when you do that, now what is this thing with fear? We need to deal with that, because we start to get these ideas, I can do this, I can be an entrepreneur, I can go off on my own, and we struggle with it. Fear will incapacitate you. There was this major, his name is Major Redside. He was a British hunter years ago in Africa. And he was hunting with a group of friends, and somehow they went walking off, and I don't know what happened to him, but he wound up being by himself. So he decides they're across this swift-moving stream of water. So he stumbles across it, drops his gun, drops his cartridge, and he's kind of flaying around in the water, getting soaking wet. And he gets to the other side and flops down on the bank and is breathing, and I made it across the stream. My gun's wet, my cartridges is wet. There was a tigress with her cubs right there. She caught him. And he tried to run, but the minute you run with no more needs to be said, she got him. And she drug him to where the cubs were so they could play with him. And you've seen kittens pounce and claw and bite and do all those things. Well, he said, I knew I was going to die. That was the choice. Or I was going to live. That was another choice. But he said, I got very calm. And I thought, I just might survive. So after a while, he was telling the drama to his friends who found him and saved him. And he said, the fear left me as soon as the tiger caught me. I hardly noticed any pain as she bit into my shoulder and dragged me to her cubs. Not to be eaten, but to play cat and mouse. Every time I tried to call away, those 3 cubs got on me and dragged me back into the clearing. If they didn't drag me back in, the mother did. And there was no way I had the strength to get out. The only thing I could do was call help. So I called my friends' names. I kept yelling help. Didn't bother the tigers. They're in the wilderness. Animals squeal all the time. They didn't know what he was doing, but his friends did and knew he was in trouble. For about an hour, the cubs are playing cat and mouse. The mother's lying there taking a nap. He tries to get away. She wakes up, goes, gets him, and brings him back. A terrible situation. How did he survive? By staying calm. When you have fear, the worst thing you can do is feel it in your body, because then it owns you. So you have to bring fear out, grab it by the neck and go, swat, swat. Listen, fear, you and I are not friends. And you can't live in here anymore. Swat, swat, out. And then you have to fill yourself up with so much pleasure. Yeah, breathe. It's wonderful. Because fear is an imagination. It's not real. It's your vivid imagination saying, what if I might be homeless? My car would break down. What if? Has that ever happened? Perhaps it was a learning experience, but you know better now. So what is this? When you are in that situation, you've got to work from the inside out. You've got to be your own strength. Now, Siegel says, we can recognize and reorganize the neural pathway in our brain. Recognize you have the right to change your mind. You were given the gift of choice. Learn to live in the now. That's what the hunter did. So you just take a deep breath and let the lion or the tiger drag you around, let the cubs play on you until you get some help and just scream, because one of 2 things is going to happen. You're going to get rescued or you're going to die. So you might as well live in the now. So he kept trying to get off. Now, why would you do this? Because that's my next question. Why do I want to watch the thinking in my head? And why do I want to change my mind and catch my fear and do something? It is so simple. The DNA in your body. When you are in the stress energy, which you know your favorite is stress energy, then you can just tighten up your DNA. And what happens is it shuts down. We're under stress, we're in danger, and it shuts down parts of your body. And it's called depression, fear, irritation, anger. What else have we got? We got all kinds of stuff. Isolation. We just shut down. Then we try to get out of it by creative thinking. Can't think of a thing because it's turned off. So this is why when things are going smoothly, I want to work with my own DNA and stretch it out so that's more powerful and stronger. And what does that? Appreciation. Ernest Holmes tells us appreciation and attitude. So if I live the beloved life, if I live with appreciation and attitude, then I can stretch out my DNA, and guess what? I'm healthier, I'm happier, I get a love relationship because I'm Miss Bliss, right? Isn't this wonderful? My body heals itself automatically because that's what it's supposed to do. When I do this healing work, I don't know how that works. I just know what to do to set it up. I know what to do to help a person set up a relationship. I know what to do to help a person create a job for themselves. And so we just breathe into it and say, relax. I need to know So I don't want to switch off my DNA codes. So here's some basic things. 1, there is a godlike essence in every one of us. We were given the gift of life. We know that because we breathe. You don't breathe, you're dead. So we've given the gift of life. We were chosen by Spirit to express for whatever reason on this planet right now. The second gift we were given is the gift of choice. We have some kind of connection between our thoughts and what happens to us. So acceptance and realization. Dr. Holmes says these words are fraught with the greatest meaning to the one who wishes to consciously use the creative power of thought for definite purposes. I'm in. I want to do that. I don't want to do this suffering and woe is me and having lack. I think I've lived long enough to say I recognize I don't want to do that anymore. So I get to change my mind. Now here's what happens in your head. Thoughts just appear. They come, they go out of nothing. You don't know where they come from, you don't know where they go. It's like clouds. I noticed when I drove in, I said, oh God, the clouds are beautiful. They're gray and soft and fluffy. But the wind's going to come in and they're gone. Could we know that it's that simple when we look at the trash in our head, because I don't know what else to call it. It's stuff we don't want anymore. And put in desire instead. So a piece of trash comes floating by. I remember when that, say, out, let go, you're no longer with me. Here's what my desire is. Doesn't desire sound more like passion? That it really revs you inside? Want is wishful thinking. Maybe I want it, maybe I don't. But if I desire it, I'm creating energy. So there's no harm with these thoughts until we attach to them. Now there's this man, Anton Blumen. He said, you close your eyes, how simple is that? Get out of your own way, rather than trying for results. In other words, breathe. Be with Spirit. When you go with Spirit, what is your needs, wants, and desires? Nothing. To be with Spirit is everything. You can do it at work. I used to, when I was in ministerial school, I had a green patch on under my phone, and every so often I call around the United States, we'd have these forgery things in home housing. And so I'd be in a tight spot and I'd pick my phone up, I'd look at my green patch and oh, that's Spirit for me. And I put my phone back down and deal with it. It doesn't matter if you're at work. One time I was coming out of the restroom and this young man ran by and he says, do you know of a religious science practitioner on the grounds? I said, you're looking at one. Isn't that interesting? He said, oh, I really need help. And so we dealt with whatever that issue was. Here's the key. Our body and our nervous system are always at work trying to heal us. You don't have to heal yourself. Your body knows what to do. Just get the mindset of health, the mindset of bliss. You see, the brain is a receiving apparatus. It watches what's around you, and it can change its neurological circuitry through experience. So you're having an experience with me today. Now, unbeknownst to you, I've done prayer work for everyone in here, knowing that all is well. So you don't have to go home and try to figure this out. You just have to be as true to yourself, being the beloved, as you possibly can be. You're going to listen. You're going to observe. 2 words. I sometimes forget the 3rd word, so I only gave you 2. Listen to what's going on in your head, observe it, and if you want it, keep it. If you don't, throw it out. Accept that you can generate good. Accept that you can be calm no matter what's happening, whether a tiger's at you or not, whether you're in a battle at work. You can be calm right in the middle and know without a doubt you are the beloved and you have all the support and love you could possibly want. It's inbred in you. You take it wherever you go. You can't put it in a drawer and go on vacation. It goes with you. You're stuck with it because you're the beloved. How easy can it be? So you're going to practice being in God's presence. You're going to listen in the quiet as much as you can. When you've got a thought you don't like, choke it. Throw it away. Get rid of it. So take that deep breath and say, thank God it's over. Thank you so much.